Hi everyone, it's Maureen Muldoon, and we are on lesson 138 with A Course in Miracles, the workbook lessons. And the lesson is Heaven is a Decision That I Must Make. And if you are joining us and you like these lessons, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe and share it with your friends. So, heaven is a decision I must make. In this lesson, Jesus goes into the idea that heaven is not that old idea, that old antiquated idea of some sort of God VIP room in the sky that we have to earn our way into. That it's actually as accessible as a decision. You can make the decision right here and right now. And I don't know why we've fallen asleep to the fact that we have keys to the kingdom right here and right now to experience heaven, and we don't have to die in order to get there. But this is just it's become like a socially acceptable thing. Like, when I get to heaven, I can't, you have to be good to get into heaven. But Jesus even gave us a prayer like a bazillion years ago. It said, like, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I'm pointing up because that's where we kind of think heaven is. But, heaven is everything. But basically the prayer is saying, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Like, bring heaven to earth. And in order to bring heaven to earth, guess how hard that is. It's simply a decision away. So this lesson is about making the decision for heaven. We will invest in what we value. So if you value war, if you value separation, if you value separateness, you're going to experience the outpicturing of that, and that's hell. And if you value love, compassion, generosity, you're going to experience heaven. And so today you get to decide, am I making the decision for heaven? So let's venture into the lesson, shall we? Heaven is a decision that I must make. In this world, heaven is a choice because here we believe there are alternatives to choose between. We think that all things have an opposite and we want what we choose. If heaven exists, there must be hell as well. For contradiction is the way we make what we perceive and what we think is real. Creation knows no opposite, but here is opposite part of being real. It is this strange perception of the truth that makes the choice for heaven seem to be the same as the relinquishment of hell. It's not really thus. Yet what is true in God's creation cannot enter here until it is reflected in some form the world can understand. Truth cannot come where it can be perceived with fear, for this would be the error. Truth can be brought to illusion. Truth can be brought to illusion. Opposition makes the truth unwelcomed, and it cannot come. So it's saying, like, you can't really choose heaven because heaven is the constant state of all that is, but as long as you think you're separate, we're going to give you the ability to choose it. Though it's not really a choice, it's a constant. So it says choice is the obvious escape from what appears as opposites. Decision lets one of conflicting goals become the aim of effort and expenditure of time. Without decision, time is but a waste and effort dissipated. It is spent for nothing and returned, and time goes by without results. There is no sense of gain, for nothing is accomplished and nothing is learned. You need to be reminded that you think 1,000 choices are confronting you when there is really only one to make. And even this but seems to be a choice. But do not confuse yourself with all the doubts that myriad decisions will induce. You make but one, and when that one is made, you will perceive it was no choice at all. For truth is true, and nothing else is true. It's like when you know something, you don't choose to know it, you just know it. As an example, when you know how to tie your shoe, it's not something that you have to choose every single day. Like, I'm going to choose to know how to tie my shoe. No, you just know it. And so this is the same as heaven. Like, once we choose it, once we recognize that it's ours, we no longer have to choose it. It just always is. Even before we choose it, it just always is. There is no opposite to choose. Instead, there is no contradiction to the truth. Choosing depends on learning, and the truth cannot be learned but only recognized. In recognition, its acceptance lies, and as it is accepted, it is known. So it's the same thing with like tying your shoe. Once you accept, you tie these two things together, you make a little rabbit ears, and like once you accept, you know the recipe, it's like it's done. You don't have to continue to learn that every single day. You don't have to continue to practice it or decide for it. It's just done. In recognition is acceptance lies, and as it is accepted, it is known. But knowledge is beyond the goal we seek to teach within the framework of this course. Our teaching goals to be attained through learning how to reach them and what they are and what they offer you. Decisions are the outcome of your learning, for they rest on what you have accepted as the truth of what you are and what your needs must be. So if you decide you are a being of light and love, all your decisions are going to be in alignment with that. If you decide that you are forgotten and abandoned and worthless, all of your decisions are going to be in alignment with that. Number 6 says, in this insanely complicated world, heaven appears to take the form of choice rather than merely being what it is. Of all the choices you've tried to make, this is the simplest, most definitive, and prototype of all the rest, and one which settles all decisions. If you could decide the rest, this one remains unsolved. But when you solve this one, the others are resolved with it. So it's like saying, like the same mathematics of seek first God's love, all else is given. So seek first, choose first heaven, all else is given. But when you solve this one, the others are resolved with it. For all decisions but conceal this one by taking different forms. Here is the final and the only choice in which truth is accepted or denied. So we begin today, considering the choice that time was made to help us make. Such is its holy purpose now, transformed by the intent that you give it, that it may be a means to demonstrate hell is real, hope changed to despair, and life itself must in the end be overcome by death. In death alone are opposites resolved, for ending oppositions is to die, and thus salvation must be seen as death, for death is seen as conflict. For life is seen as conflict. To resolve the conflict is to end your life as well. So it's showing us like all the ways that the ego gets in there and creates these conflicting goals, and that the only way to really resolve them and have peace, rest in peace, is to die. It's heresy. We can have that today. Number 8 says, these mad beliefs can gain unconscious hold of great intensity and grip the mind with terror and anxiety so strong that it will not relinquish its ideas about its own protection. Like, you know, as well as I know, that like one of the major fears is the fear of death. And we shouldn't live with the fear of death. We should live enjoying life. When death will come when death comes. No biggie. It's just a transition. It's just like going to Florida. If you've never been to Florida. At least that's what we say in my family. Like when my dad died, my sisters like couldn't handle the fact that my dad died and went to the other realm. And so instead they were just like, let's just say that dad went to Florida. And whenever we talk to him, we'll just be like, I hope dad's having fun in Florida. So even in that scenario, like my people, my tribe have like a fear around the completion of death, or a thought that the death is a completion. But we know that death is not a completion, that nothing ever dies, that love never dies, that nothing real ever dies. So anyhow, it says that these mad beliefs can gain unconscious hold of great intensity and grip the mind with terror and anxiety so strong that it will not relinquish its ideas about its own protection. It must be saved from salvation, threatened to be saved, and magically armored against the truth. And these decisions are made unaware to keep them safely undisturbed, apart from questions and from reason and from doubt. So it's like we solidify these agreements that we have about death, and then we never question them again. We solidify these ideas that we have about heaven, and we just never re-question them. So to think, wait, heaven's a choice that I can make today? Tell me more. I mean, what? I mean, don't you want to, aren't you curious? Like, what does that mean? Heaven is a choice that I could make today. Heaven is chosen consciously. It's said in number 9. Heaven is chosen consciously. The choice cannot be made until alternatives are accurately seen and understood. All this is veiled in shadows and must be raised to understanding to be judged again, this time with heaven's help. And all mistakes in judgment that the mind had made before are open to correction, as the truth dismisses them as causeless, and now they are without effect. They cannot be concealed because their nothingness is recognized. For 10, the conscious choice of heaven is as sure as is the end of the fear of hell. And when it's raised from its protective shield of unawareness, it's brought to light. And who can decide between the clearly seen and the unrecognized? And who can fail to make the choice between alternatives when only one is seen as valuable? I mean, who wants to entertain the idea of hell when you could entertain the idea of heaven? The other as wholly worthless thing, a but imagined source of guilt and pain. Who hesitates to make a choice like that? And shall we hesitate to choose today? So it's like kind of like being tongue-in-cheek with us, like really you're gonna like wait to look which one, heaven or hell? Oh God, decisions. Number 11, we make the choice for heaven as we wake and spend 5 minutes making sure that we have made the one decision that is sane. We recognize we made a conscious choice between what has existence and what has nothing but an appearance of the truth. There is no hell, there is no sin, there is no separation. It's pseudo-being brought to what is real. It's flimsy and transparent in the light. It holds no terror now for what was made enormous, vengeful, pitiless with hate, demands obscurity for fear to be invested there. Now it is recognized as but a foolish, trivial mistake. How could I think that God had authored a hell? How could I think that a God so good and beautiful and holy would have any investment in dabbling in some sort of horrific child's nightmare as hell? Hell, whoever invented that? It was not God. It was our addiction to separation, our addiction to blame, shame, and guilt, our addiction to control. Because you know what? When you have the scenario of hell in your cards and you play that story, oh by, can you control some people. When you wave that carrot of you don't do this and you go to hell, oh, you can get people to jump through a whole hell of a lot of hoops, if you know what I mean. I wonder who does that. Anyway, 12. Before we close our eyes and sleep tonight, we reaffirm the choice that we have made each hour and in between, and now we give the last 5 minutes of our waking day to the decision with which we woke. I choose heaven today. As every hour passes, we have declared our choice again in a brief, quiet time devoted to maintaining sanity. And finally, we close the day with this, acknowledging we chose but what we want. Heaven. Heaven is the decision I must make today. I make it now, and I will not change my mind because it's the only thing that I want. It makes me think that of sometimes when I tell my clients, I'll say, when people feel bad or guilty about something, I'll say like, God loves you and she hasn't changed her mind. And so today, when we choose heaven, we choose God. And so we could say, God, I choose for you. I choose love. I choose light. I choose a guiltless state of being. I choose innocence for myself and for everyone. And today, as I choose that, I pledge not to change my mind, not to pick up a little hell, not to pick up a little guilt, not to pick up a little shame. Like, be gone. All those things we don't need as we continue to hold the high watch for heaven. And a heaven that doesn't come through death, but a heaven that comes through life. How about it? Again, give it a like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Thank you for being patient with me as we move through the course's lessons. I'm going at the pace of peace, apparently. God bless. Namaste.